Hi there, I'm Carol Gillis. Welcome to the Lion's Den, where each time we turn our love for knitting and crocheting into something fun to make, and better yet, to wear. Today, we're making the Lion brand Ruffles Frill-Seeker Scarf. This is a beginner-level project that features a wonderful tape yarn with endless possibilities. This is a scarf. What do you think?
I love it.
Yeah?
I love it.
Love the ruffle.
Yeah, perfect size. So it looks like some of you have started.
I couldn't wait. I went to the website and I got the pattern. I couldn't wait.
And other people
Just
casting on.
I need help.
We can give that. Before we start, we want to make sure that we have everything we need for our project. In today's knitting bag, you will need 2 balls of Lion brand Ruffles yarn, 1 ball of Lion brand Cashmere blend, and a pair of size 9 needles. Before we begin, I wanted to ask, how many of you done a gauge swatch?
I would rather just start my project and get 4 inches in than use that yarn in time to something that I'm not going to ever use again.
One of the reasons you might do a gauge swatch, even for a scarf, is to make sure you have enough yarn for the project. You don't want to run out of yarn. And if your gauge is off, it's possible you could run out of yarn. To make a gauge swatch, you want to look at the gauge of the yarn, and the gauge of the yarn says 4 stitches per inch. So we want to cast on at least 16 stitches. And then you want to count how many stitches are in that inch. And then similarly, you want to count your rows, marking off an inch. You want to count how many rows or little V's that you have knit in that inch vertically. And that will tell you what your gauge is. And now that we've done our gauge swatch, we're going to cast on, and we're going to cast on 24 stitches. And I'm going to cast on using the knit cast on. This one is good because it gives you a flexible edge. You don't want your edge to be too tight. And sometimes people, if they tend to cast on tightly, sometimes they use a larger size needle to cast on, just the cast on row.
That's a good idea. Oh, that's a great idea. That would work.
So we have cast on 24 stitches, and we want to knit across the row. There's like different ways that people knit and different ways they carry the yarn, and there's really no right way or wrong way. You kind of have to, again, experiment a little and then see what you like. But today I'm going to knit what is called the English style, which is carrying the yarn in the right hand. Okay, just finishing up the first knit row. Now we're going to turn the work, and we're going to purl back.
How long have you knit, Carol?
I actually started knit late in life. I was taught by a colleague, and I was in my mid-30s, so not taught by a grandmother or mother like a lot of you. But, I just fell in love with it and have been going like crazy ever since with a yarn stash to prove it.
My name is Ellen Mazuzin. I've been knitting for about 3 years. I didn't learn from anyone in the family. I learned from an adult education class. Actually, my older sister kind of dragged me along with her. As a knitting student, I was pretty good, actually. It was better than chemistry. This is a hat that I made for my husband a couple of years ago. Followed a pattern, which was more of a challenge for me to learn how to read knitting patterns than the actual knitting itself. So I followed a pattern, did it well, and gave him the hat for his birthday, and he loves it, wears it all the time, walks our dogs with it. I really enjoy it. I enjoy the learning process, and I enjoy the knitting. I have a really good time.
Okay, now we're going to do the fun part. We're going to do our first Ruffles row. Okay.
Can I take a look at the scarf?
Yes, sure.
I just would like to see what the ruffle feels like.
This is what you're going to wind up with after you work with the Ruffles yarn. And really only doing 1 or 2 rows with the yarn is going to give you just, this fabulous flouncy folderol.
It really does.
Isn't it? Isn't it great? So when you start the Ruffles row, your first Ruffles row, you just kind of open it up over your finger like this, and then with your right hand needle, you go right into the yarn from the front, and then you come out the back. Okay?
Right in the middle.
That's right.
Yeah?
Is that right?
And then you just knit it off your needle. As you do your next stitch, you kind of want to maybe use as a ballpark, you know, a thumb's length before you go in and do your next stitch. But you know what? You don't have to measure. It's not a big deal. You do want to make sure as you're working with the yarn that it doesn't get twisted. So every once in a while, you kind of want to, you know, smooth it out.
Brenda, you know what you said about you made it harder than it seemed? I think that's my problem, or that's been my pattern with knitting, is that I always think it's going to be harder than it actually is. And once I start doing it, it's really easy and it becomes really relaxing really quickly. It's just new things I seem to worry that they're going to be difficult. I don't know why, because I haven't run into anything really hard yet. But once I start doing it, it comes really quickly.
You know, we got to remember this is a hobby.
Right.
We're doing this for fun, you know.
And relaxing.
There are no knitting police that are going to arrest us. And then even if you make a mistake when you're knitting with friends, they'll help you fix that.
And that's the good thing about knitting with friends.
That's great.
Do you have friends that you knit with?
I do, actually. I do have a couple friends who knit, and you know, we swap scarves and such.
Nice.
And it's a great thing to give as a present. Like
It is.
when I go to a party, like I'll knit a couple scarves and put them in a bag, and it really does turn out to be a great gift.